became the backdrop for a series of brutal murders that gripped the nation. Within just a few months, 3 young women were found dead, bearing striking similarities.
True crime is most frightening when it hides in plain sight.
All were sex workers from the city's bustling red light district, and all were killed in savage, brutal ways.
Behind friendly faces in ordinary streets, killers plot, families break, and people vanish without a trace. From neighbors who lived double lives, to shadows concealing cold-blooded murder, to crime scenes that whispered secrets long after the act, these are the stories that remind us evil is never far away. Welcome to the top 5 scariest true crime stories. The killer next door. In every neighborhood, people believe they know who lives around them. Friendly greetings, small conversations, and shared smiles create an image of safety. But sometimes, behind closed doors, darkness grows. This is the story of a killer who lived just steps away from unsuspecting families, blending into daily life while hiding terrifying secrets. Neighbors often described him as quiet and polite, a man who minded his own business. He would mow his lawn, take out the trash, and wave to children passing by. To the outside world, he seemed ordinary, almost invisible. Yet, inside his home, he was building a hidden world of violence. Victims disappeared without a sound, and people began to whisper about those who never returned. Police were baffled at first. The disappearances looked random, without any clear link. Families were desperate for answers, and the community was filled with fear. No one imagined that the person responsible was the very man they greeted every morning. Investigators finally followed the smallest clues: strange smells, late-night noises, and missing personal items. Step by step, the truth pointed to the house everyone ignored. When officers entered his home, they uncovered the horror that had been buried for years. Evidence of his crimes was everywhere: journals, photos, and chilling details of each attack. The ordinary neighbor was no longer a mystery man. He was unmasked as a calculated and merciless killer. The shock left the community shattered. Parents held their children tighter, and every familiar face suddenly seemed suspicious. The scariest part was not only what he did, but how easily he fooled everyone. The killer lived right next door, and nobody saw it until it was too late. Vanished without trace. Some crimes leave behind evidence, clues, or witnesses. But the most chilling cases are the ones where people simply vanish, leaving nothing but questions and fear. This is the story of disappearances so sudden and strange that they shook entire communities. It began with one missing person. A young woman who left home for work and never arrived. Friends searched, police checked cameras, and family begged for answers. Yet, not a single sign of her was ever found. Soon after, another disappearance struck the same area. A man on his way back from the store vanished between 2 blocks. His groceries were discovered on the sidewalk, but he was gone as if the earth had swallowed him. The pattern continued, creating a wave of fear. Doors were locked earlier, children were kept indoors, and neighbors whispered about an invisible predator. What made these cases terrifying was the complete absence of leads. No struggle, no evidence, no witnesses, only silence. Detectives tried to connect the victims' different ages, jobs, and routines. But there was no clear link, making the mystery even darker. For families, the pain was endless. Without bodies, there were no funerals. Without clues, there was no justice. Loved ones left behind lived in limbo, trapped between hope and despair, not knowing if their missing relatives were alive or dead. Every ring of the phone, every knock on the door, felt like it could be the answer, but it never was. Years passed, and the disappearances became unsolved legends. Some believed a skilled predator stalked the streets, while others whispered about human trafficking or secret hideouts. The truth, however, was never found. What remains is the cold, haunting fact: people can vanish without a trace, leaving behind nothing but fear and broken families. Family-turned-deadly families are meant to be safe havens, places of love and trust. But in some of the darkest true crime cases, the greatest dangers come not from strangers, but from those closest to us. This story is about a family whose bond turned into betrayal, and whose home became the stage for unthinkable violence. It began with quiet tensions behind closed doors, arguments over money, jealousy, and control. Neighbors often heard shouting but dismissed it as normal family issues. No one could imagine that these arguments would grow into something deadly. To the outside world, they looked like any other family, sharing meals, celebrating holidays, and smiling in photos. But inside, resentment and rage were slowly building. One night, the tension exploded. What should have been an ordinary evening turned into a scene of horror. A parent who was supposed to protect became the attacker. Siblings who trusted one another were torn apart by fear and betrayal. In just hours, the household was filled with silence, the kind of silence only death can bring. When police arrived, they found evidence of a planned attack rather than a sudden outburst. Journals, messages, and small preparations showed this was no accident. It was a deliberate act of destruction carried out by someone who shared the same blood. Detectives later revealed chilling details of control, manipulation, and a desire to erase the very people who were supposed to be loved the most. For the community, the truth was unbearable. People wondered how they could have missed the signs. How could a family portrait hide such darkness? The story became a reminder that sometimes the deadliest threats come not from outside, but from the very heart of home. A family turned deadly, leaving behind a tragedy that would never be forgotten. Murder in the shadows, some crimes are committed in plain sight, but the most haunting ones take place in silence, hidden in the shadows where no one dares to look. This is the story of a murder that was carried out so carefully, so quietly, that it almost went unnoticed. But shadows cannot hide the truth forever. It began on a lonely street, where the lights were dim and the air carried an uneasy stillness. A victim walked home, unaware of the danger waiting nearby. A figure followed from the darkness, steps silent, eyes fixed with deadly intent. In that moment, the street became a trap. The attack was quick, brutal, and planned. By the time anyone passed by, there was nothing left but the chilling aftermath of a life taken too soon. At first, police had little to work with. The scene was clean, with almost no clues. Witnesses recalled only faint movements in the dark, as if the killer was a shadow themselves. But as investigators dug deeper, hidden evidence began to surface. Small details that revealed the murder was not random. It was personal. Someone close to the victim had planned every step, using the cover of night to mask their crime. For the family, grief was mixed with confusion. They struggled to understand why their loved one had been targeted, and who could be capable of such cruelty. Each day brought rumors, suspicions, and painful questions with no clear answers. The community lived in fear, knowing a murderer could be walking among them, blending into everyday life while carrying such a dark secret. In the end, the shadows gave way to truth. The killer was exposed, not by chance, but by their own mistakes. An overlooked footprint, a trace of blood, a hidden motive that could no longer stay in the dark. The case became a chilling reminder that even in silence, murder leaves its mark. Secrets of the crime scene. Every crime scene tells a story, but not all of its secrets are revealed right away. Detectives know that even the smallest detail, a broken glass, a misplaced shoe, a hidden fingerprint, can unlock the truth. This is the story of a case where the crime scene held terrifying secrets, waiting to be uncovered. When police arrived, the house looked strangely calm. Nothing appeared stolen, no forced entry, no sign of chaos. But as investigators stepped deeper inside, the quiet walls began to whisper what had really happened. Bloodstains carefully cleaned, carpets pulled back, and items arranged too neatly told them this was no simple break-in. Someone had worked hard to cover their tracks. At first, the mystery seemed unsolvable, but forensic experts began to piece together the hidden details. A trace of DNA under the victim's fingernails, a smudge on the window, and a faint mark on the floor revealed a struggle that had been carefully disguised. Even the smell of bleach told its own story. The killer believed they had erased the truth, but science uncovered what the eyes could not see. As days passed, the crime scene became a map of the killer's mind. Each detail showed planning, fear, and desperation. The victim had fought back, leaving behind silent clues of their final moments. Detectives followed these signs step by step until the full picture was revealed. The murderer was not a stranger but someone the victim trusted. Someone who thought the crime would stay hidden forever. For the family, the truth was heartbreaking, but it gave them answers. For the community, it was a chilling reminder that even when a scene looks normal, darkness can linger beneath the surface. In the end, the crime scene spoke louder than the killer, exposing the secrets that solved the case.